It is imperative that the Trail of Tears Association ensure that the record of what was done to the First Nations of the southeastern United States remains as relevant a story today as it was 180 years ago.
An amazing story that the people, the ancestors of the Eastern Band, purposefully enacted and saw their way all the way through all the suffering that it took to remain here.
The Cherokee wanted to create, they wanted to communicate with themselves, but most importantly, they wanted to communicate with the world.
So ancestral Cherokee people are cosmopolitan people. They had deep and wide social networks.
One disillusioned soldier wrote that he was paid to commit a crime, to defend a fraudulent treaty with, in his words, the vilest machinations man or demon could invent.
And if you understand the Trail of Tears, and if you don't forget the Trail of Tears, when you go on to study just what happened in the 19th century after the Cherokee people got to their new homelands, picked themselves back up, and rebuilt a great society and a great democracy and a government built on the rule of law.
We don't do this to shame or blame. We do it because it's an opportunity for us to say to the world, our ancestors persevered. They had tenacity and resilience. They refused to be victims. They rebuilt the Cherokee Nation.
So I think that y'all should give yourselves a round of applause for all that you've accomplished in the last 25 years.
You didn't sign up to be warriors in this battle. Your efforts to speak plainly about the Trail of Tears, to preserve the history, helps push back on this nonsense. So we are bringing back the history course for the Cherokee people, by the Cherokee people, so that this generation of Cherokees coming up will know their own history.
All right, good morning. Can you all hear me okay? All right, I'm gonna get us started here. My name is Amy Costine. I'm the National Trails Program Coordinator and Historian at the Center for Historic Preservation at Middle Tennessee State University. Thank you all for spending a little part of your day with us to learn a little bit more about the National Park Service's High Potential Sites and Segments project that my office will be helping out with in Tennessee and Kentucky over the next year. So some of you in the room today might not be familiar with our office and may be wondering, why is MTSU CHP here? What are they doing? So I'm going to start us off with a brief introduction of the CHP, what we've kind of highlights of what we've done on the Trail of Tears over the years, what we're working on now, and then I'm going to pass it off to Jill, who's going to introduce this new project to y'all. So the CHP was established in 1984, and our mission is to join or work with communities to interpret and promote their heritage assets through education, research, and preservation. And I think it's important for y'all to know that we don't just work in Tennessee. We really work across the Southeast, and we actually work into the West. We have some active projects right now going on as far away as New Mexico and Montana. And we also train and mentor graduate students in our MA and PhD public history program. And we have about 10 graduate research assistants on our staff right now. I did bring one of them to the conference with me today, Alexis Matrone, if you want to stand up and wave. She doesn't. She's going to be working with me for the next few years on trail projects. As you can tell from some of the pictures on this first slide, we do believe in a boots on the ground method. We have a heavy fieldwork component. We travel all the time, most days of the week. One of our staff members and students are out somewhere doing field work. And we really believe it's, getting on the ground, seeing this resource, it helps us understand the history better and maybe what that resource needs. And it just lends to a more impactful understanding of the history. Another thing you can tell from this slide is that we have a lot of programs. Those are all the logos across the top of the screen. So we administer the Tennessee Civil War National Heritage Area, which encompasses the entire state of Tennessee. We also administer the Library of Congress Teaching with Primary Sources MTSU program, and they've hosted a number of Trail of Tears presentations and workshops over the years. Many of those have been in partnership with the East Tennessee Historical Society, and I believe the president and CEO, Dr. Warren Doctor, and then the community engagement manager, Kelly Weatherly Sinclair, is in the audience today and has been attending the conference, so we thank them for their partnership. We also administer the Tennessee Century Farms program. That's a program that started way back in 1957 and recognizes families who have owned and farmed the same land for at least 100 years. We also have a heritage center in downtown Murfreesboro, and it's really a learning lab for students to work on exhibits and give tours. We've actually hosted some Trail of Tears events there over the years as well. And we have worked closely with the National Trails Office of the National Park Service for over a decade, along with many other partners, on a variety of projects related to the Trail of Tears National Historic Trail. So real quick, I'm just going to highlight a few of those projects. One of them is a Tennessee Trail of Tears brochure that was printed in 2013, and I think we just finished our third printing of the brochure. That's available at our Trail of Tears, or our table in the main room. We're probably best known for our building survey we did on the Trail of Tears. This was a 3-year survey to identify buildings associated with the Trail of Tears National Historic Trail, and I think we came up with about 200 buildings and structures. And I still update that database as needed. We don't want it to become obsolete, and there's been changes over the years. We've lost some buildings, we've added some buildings, we've did some more research on ones we weren't sure of, so we were able to confirm whether or not they were associated. We've also done some guides and booklets. We've done restoration guides for both log and brick buildings for property owners on the Trail of Tears. And most recently, we've done a Rivers, Rails, and Roads booklet that's about the different transportation methods that the Cherokee used on the Trail of Tears. That's also available at our CHP table in the main room as well. And we've done loads of National Register nominations. Our two most recent ones were the State Road Hill Cemetery segment in Caldwell County, Kentucky, and then the Georgetown Road in Meigs County, Tennessee. And we've done exhibits. We most recently did the Hiwassee River Heritage Center, Voices of the Trail, and second phase of their interior exhibits. And then we finished exhibits at Red Clay State Park recently. The first phase of that was in 2015. And then Dr. Danielle Shelton, who is now the Heritage Programs Manager at the Cherokee National Forest, was my former graduate research assistant. And for her dissertation and residency, she completed all of the exhibits there. So what you see today is a lot of her work. So I think it's important to note that none of these projects get completed without the help of the Trail of Tears Association and its members sharing information with us. Y'all are the reason we can complete projects like this, and we appreciate your help. As far as current and upcoming projects, we have a few on the table. We've been working on a Trail of Tears interpretive plan for the state of Missouri. This is in partnership with the Missouri Humanities Council and the National Trail of Tears Association. Missouri chapter is heavily involved in that. And we've really enjoyed working with them and visiting the sites there and learning and seeing the huge potential to tell the Trail of Tears story in Missouri. We also have an upcoming project in partnership with the Cherokee National Forest, and it'll be a multimedia sort of lessons learned project about the damage that was done to the Trail of Tears years ago in the Cherokee National Forest. We haven't really done a kickoff meeting with that yet. The contract was just signed this week, so that's coming through the pipeline. And then lastly, of course, is why I'm here today. It's the High Potential Sites and Segment project we're working with the National Park Service on. And I'm excited about this project because it's going to give us an opportunity to really look at some of these Trail of Tears sites that I've really come to know over the last decade through a new lens and thinking about, how people experience the trail today. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Jill, who is going to get us thinking about the importance of some of these Trail of Tears sites and how it connects.
I'm from Kentucky. I'm kind of new to. Could you go back about 3 or 4 slides? There was a
State Road?
state road.
Yeah.
State road versus
It's near Fredonia, and it's near the Hills Cemetery. I can fill you in more on it after if you'd like. Okay.
Thanks, Amy. Yeah, so I'm Jill Jensen. I'm the lead planner for the National Trails Office. And one of the things I do in my position is what we call the High Potential Sites and Segments program. Basically, high potential sites and segments are the heart of the trail experience. They are the only thing in the legislation that the trail administrator has kind of exclusive purview over. And so it's something that we really work with the association with to make sure we're identifying those experiences properly and we're not leaving anything out. As you guys know, Trail of Tears is one of the oldest National Historic Trails designated by Congress. And so the information we have about high potential sites and segments is very, very out of date. I think it was over 30 years ago that list was created, and you all have done a tremendous amount of research between then and now, and we need to get that captured. So, you guys have heard a lot of people talk to you today, and yesterday, and the day before. So this is going to be a really interactive meeting. And I want to start off by a little round robin of introductions. Let me know what chapter you're with, if you're with a chapter. And then if you have a special place on the trail, I would love to hear what that special place is. If you're not familiar with the Trail of Tears enough yet to share that, or if you don't feel comfortable, that's fine. But I want you to think about a spot on the trail that means something to you, and you can just say the name of it. And so Amy is going to kick us off.
On the spot. Well, there's a lot of meaningful places to me. I am a member of the Tennessee and Alabama chapters, by the way. And I guess I'll go off with the site that I mentioned earlier. One you mentioned was a state road. Hello? All right. You're welcome. I guess one of my meaningful places on the trail is the State Road Hill Cemetery segment in Kentucky. And I'm going to tell a little tale, just not only to eat up some time, but so y'all can think about your meaningful and special places. So that particular segment of the trail, I worked on the National Register nomination for, and we had to take a fieldwork trip to do kind of the technical stuff you need to do on a National Register nomination, take pictures, do measurements, that sort of thing. And it was horrendous weather that day. I mean, just torrential downpour, thunder, lightning. It was miserable. Alice Murphy, who was the president then of the Kentucky chapter, wouldn't even get out of her car. She's like, no, I'm not having this. So we're out there with a group of the property owners, and I had another colleague with me and some other folks. And I get separated because I take tons of pictures, and I always am behind. And I had a moment that gave me a chance to sort of reflect. And a personal note about me is that I grew up in New York, and I really moved to Tennessee and went into the MA program at MTSU to learn about the Trail of Tears. I didn't learn about it in school, and I had a lot of questions. And I was reading about it in books and articles, but I didn't have any kind of grasp or understanding of it. So in order for me to have a better understanding, I felt like I needed to get my feet on the ground on the trail, and that was the only way I could really understand it. So yeah, that moment, I mean, I'm soaking wet, just miserable, I'm hungry. But I had that moment of reflection where I had a better understanding of what it might have been like, and I'll never know what it was like, none of us will. But a better understanding than I could ever have than reading through books and articles. And I think to me that's kind of what this High Potential Sites project is really all about, is those special experiences, those special places that you can have a better connection to the trail with. So that's mine. I'll start off with you if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Can you speak loud?
Really loud.
Okay. I can just pass this off to you because not all of us are that loud.
Hi, my name is Heather Carey, and I'm with the Illinois chapter. Probably my favorite place. My job is I'm the Heritage Program Manager for the Shawnee National Forest, which is located in southern Illinois. And my favorite place is probably Hamburg Hill, which is about 1.25 miles of old road corridor that is located on the forest. And the reason I enjoy that area is just because it's pretty new. And I mean, we've known about it for a really long time, but we just recently developed it in the last few years, and now it's available. There's, a parking lot and restrooms, and people can go and walk on 1 mile of the trail. And I just appreciate the fact that it's now so accessible to people. And so that's probably my favorite.
I'm Bob Jones, I'm from the Kentucky chapter of the Trail of Tears Association. I too grew up in upstate New York. And my favorite place, I've kind of got two, and I'll throw it out real quick. One is Mantle Rock, just because of everything that happened there. And I tell people when they go to Mantle Rock, you got to go in the winter. Don't go in the summer when everything's nice. Go in the winter when it's snowing, and it's frosty, and it's nasty, which is the time frame that the detachments are there. But my absolute favorite place is Columbus Belmont State Park. It's where the Bend route crossed the Mississippi River, and there's a spot there that you can stand on the bluffs, and you can think about 1,100 people, 600 horses, 60 wagons, all encamped there, looking out across the Mississippi. Because at that point, if you ignore the towboats that are on the river, you see nothing that's made by man, other than the fact that there's fields cleared for agriculture. And so think about, you just walked 400 and something miles, you got another 400 and something to go, and you're looking out there and you have no clue where you're going. And that to me is pretty moving when we talk to people about it.
I'm Leslie Thomas, I'm from the Georgia chapter. My favorite segment is the Sally Hughes Road, which is not signed at this point in time. If you attended the 2016 conference and you ended up at the Rockdale Plantation, it runs right through the middle of that property. And there is still the house that George Washington Adair built, and there's still the Traveler's Rest on that property. And so when you stand there, you feel like you actually have been a part of walking that portion of the road, which actually starts in Rome and goes through, I think it goes to Augusta, I'm not real sure, but it's amazing that you can still see portions of it. And the same thing with the Trail of Tears, the federal road, you can still see portions of that after all these years. So if you ever visit Georgia, just holler, look me up. I'll be glad to show you where some of these things are.
Okay, I'm Dolores Graywood with the Missouri chapter of Trail of Tears. My favorite spot is the Trail of Tears State Park, and that's where 11 detachments cross the Mississippi River. And Denise Dowling, she's at another session, she's the superintendent. And it's, to look over the river, the Mississippi River, it's just an awesome, awesome experience. And so that's my favorite place. And part of it's because Denise is there.
My name is Brick. My real name is Brick. I'm with the Missouri chapter.
I'm Mike Wren. I don't know what the question was. My favorite part of the trail. Not really a part of the trail, but it's Little Wills Valley in Alabama. It's where my grandparents lived. And as a child, I spent the night with my grandmother one time, and she said, "Look what your grandfather found in the garden today." I said, "What is it?" She said, "It's a Cherokee grindstone." And I said, "Well, what's a Cherokee?" And she looked at me like, "What in the world are they teaching in schools these days?" So that was my first connection to the history of the Cherokee. And it was because of her and that event in my life, that's the one that means the most to me, that place.
Hey, well, I'm Andrew Jones. I'm at Reinhardt University and a part of the Georgia group with Jeff Bishop and Mike. And I'm kind of new to this world, but the part of the trail that's most important to me is the Unicoi Turnpike in between Fort Butler, Murphy, and Teleca Plains, Cripple Creek, because that's the kind of the area that I grew up going to visit my grandparents in and camping and playing around in. And I like what Claudia just said at the end of his talk. A lot of growing up I had no idea, that was so deeply historic, both as a nation, as the Cherokee Nation is concerned, but also as far as the rural story is concerned. So now my parents have a place on the Unicoi Turnpike in Unica near Murphy. So it's been interesting to talk to Brett, talk to people about finding ways to commemorate the detachments that left Fort Butler and traveled the Unicoi Turnpike through Wachisi Town and parts of that neck of the woods. So I've gotten bit by the bug, and here we go.
You're sitting by the right person. I'm Mary Jane Reese. I'm from Coker Creek, Tennessee. My favorite would be the Unicoi Trail / Trail of Tears. To get to my home, I have to turn on to that road, and I pass by Fort Armistead on the way. My favorite, but absolutely one of the most beautiful panoramic views is to go up the Unicoi Trail, go over the gap, and as you start down, there is one of the most beautiful panoramic views that there could ever be. But then you look to the left and you see that road snaking down and realizing that's where the Cherokee and Creek were coming up with absolutely nothing.
Good morning. My name is Larry Hightower. I'm honored to be with the Missouri chapter. My favorite place on the Trail of Tears was near and dear to me before I had ever heard of the Trail of Tears. My grandparents had a farm in southern Wayne County, Missouri, which is south of Lebanon, kind of east-northeast of Springfield. On that farm, there's a large, fairly large cave. Nothing but behemoths. Cave, comparison. But at the time of the Trail of Tears, there was a general store and the U.S. Post Office there, and they are documented by B.B. Cannon of having sold provisions to them. That's kind of on the southern half of the farm. It's a fairly small farm, but and creates a large hill over the top of the cave. And at the bottom of the cave in that valley, there are what I thought of as ditches at the time, running parallel to the hillside. And I always thought it really weird that, well, if that was erosion, why aren't they running along the fall of the hill? Anyway, Mark Spangler, another member of our board, contacted me and let me know about the connection with the Trail of Tears. And what I thought of as ditches that when I was a small child, for my sister, my cousins, and I, those were our forts, our schoolhouses where we played. And it's really humbling and heartbreaking at the same time to start to see this connection. Thanks.
My name is Kelly Weatherly Sinclair. I'm with the East Tennessee Historical Society over in Knoxville. I am new to this, but I am really enjoying getting to know everybody and their stories, and it's just amazing to see everybody from all different places gather to talk about this. So thank you for allowing me to come and learn.
Good morning. I'm Warren Doctor. I'm the president of the East Tennessee Historical Society, and I'm going to piggyback a little bit on our first story. So one of the most important places to me, I've of course studied and read about the Trail of Tears my whole life, but never really appreciated or understood it until I was helping Joe Emmert and Quentin Beck at Fort Armistead, and went and actually walked and trode there and saw and it was overwhelming, and I don't really have the words for it, but it was so powerful. And for me, that's a moment that really pulled me into this. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Valerie Pfeiffer from Louisville, Kentucky, and I was late getting in, so I'm just going to say briefly, this is my first association conference, and I'm only 2 years with the Kentucky Association. I'm a retired school teacher, and we're working on curriculum for Native American history along with the Trail of Tears. We have the northern route through Kentucky and the water route, and I believe the northern binge, is that how it's pronounced? Yeah. And so I'm still just gathering and like a sponge, loving it. Thank you. And I do want to recognize the significance of our Native ancestors, and it has touched me very deeply. I've recently found some Native DNA in my own history, so I'm all the more dedicated to the work that I hope to do in preserving and all of the goals that we have as Trail of Tears Association. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Brian Deaton, GIS specialist with the National Trails Office, and I'll just pass it on so we can get to more of the association.
I'm Adrienne Lambert, the director of the Tennessee Overhill Heritage Association. So I'm just going to echo everyone else over there in Tennessee. My favorite spot would have to be the Fort Armistead Unicoi Turnpike Trail. You can really close your eyes and really hear the footsteps and just see how deep that path is worn. And then my next favorite spot is uninterpreted, but it is in Delano at the Tennessee Agricultural Tree Farm, and that was an encampment area that we probably don't want anyone to ever be at, but it's incredible out there too.
Hi everyone, I'm Rowena McClinton from the Illinois chapter, and we have, because of Sandy Bowes and Heather and other people here from our board, they have just done an incredible job in getting so much signage and recognition of places where the Cherokees stayed. And I think one of the most significant places, I think the first place that actually got credible the signage was the campgrounds, and anyway, and also the Joe Crabb and Ethel Crabb's farm, which is named the Abbott Crab Farm, and there's a creek that runs through their property, and they know for sure that they cross that creek. So, and also the Crabs were very interested in hosting the first bicycle ride through the Cherokee bicycle ride through that area in southern Illinois, and so we're just so proud of being a part of this magnificent heritage. Tragic, but still commemorating these magnificent lives. Thank you.
My name is Anita Flanagan, and I am with the Alabama chapter. And for me, my significant place is Tuscumbia Landing. And Tuscumbia Landing was literally their last foot on their native soil before they were loaded onto the ships and on the water route.
My name is Jeffrey Bibby. I'm from the University of North Alabama and a member of the Alabama chapter, and Anita stole my spot.
I would have to say I'm Judy Sizemore. I'm with the Muscle Shoals. I'm with the Alabama chapter as well. Tuscumbia Landing is absolutely breathtaking. If you have a soul in your body, it will bring chills to you. This is where over 2,000 Cherokee came through on a train. This is the only segment where our natives were removed on a train, the TCD Railroad, for over 60 miles. There was 2,000 Cherokee and several thousand Creek although they weren't on the train, that came through Tuscumbia Landing. And when you go there and you look to the west, and of course we know what the west signifies in Native American culture, you know, you can just imagine the heartbreak and just the unknown of what how they were leaving their homeland, looking down that river. We invite you all to come see it. It is not developed right now, so this is something that's very interesting. We don't want to turn into Disneyland.
My name is Mary Ellen Noletti, and I'm with the Tennessee chapter. I live in Etowah, Tennessee, which is in Macon County. We need signage in Macon County. It's very close to Fort Cass. My favorite spot was the first time I went to Blythe's Ferry. There was no one there. You could hear the spirits in the trees as the breeze blew. And you had a sense of presence of the spirits of the people.
Hi, I'm Michael Stinlin, and I'm an intern through a partnership with the U.S. Forest Service, and I'm here to learn and start new beginnings. Thank you.
Trent Skinner, I'm the zone archaeologist for the Chattahoochee National Forest in Georgia, and also I'm here to learn, and this has been a profound experience, and I'm grateful to be here with everybody.
Hi, I'm Alice Taylor Colbert. I'm from the Georgia chapter. I'm a member of the Georgia chapter, but I'm a member because I don't have a chapter where I live. I grew up in Georgia at the center of the situation with the Wooster decision in Gwinnett County. And we don't talk about how things began sometimes with the Trail of Tears. And we don't talk about what happened in South Carolina, so I'm working to make sure that we tell the story of the 1759-1760 war and of the 1776-1777 war against the Cherokee that caused them all to leave South Carolina and find homes in North Carolina and in Georgia, but predominantly over in the corner of Alabama and Tennessee and Georgia, where they come together, dragging canoe and his moms. My favorite part is Fort Smith, where all the ships came in, because it tells the story of what really happened. Everybody had to leave, and there they depart for the new life. That was difficult, of course, but that's their new life.
My name is Amanda Bowes-Batts, and I'm a member of the Tennessee, Illinois, and Kentucky because of where I live, which is 20 minutes south of the Kentucky border. And I won't tell I guess I've got two, but I won't share one of them because I know my mom will share it because it's family oriented, so I'll just leave that one to her. Don't want to steal her thunder. But the other one is, we really just found out, the trail, the binge route went through my husband's property, like in his backyard. And we did not know that until the signage went up. And so it was at the 2019 in Paducah, the National Association meeting, when he was looking at the maps and he's like, Amanda, look at this. And I mean, it's in his backyard. And he had no clue. And of course, growing up in Hannah, I just knew. And I was like, how do you not know these things? And so we've had a lot of discussions, and so I'm anxious to learn more about that.
I'm her mother, Sandra Bowes. I'm with the Illinois chapter. I got interested in Trail of Tears as soon as Congress added it to the trail system, because as long as I can remember, and that's a long time now,
that the Trail of Tears went through our family farm. My ancestor had taken out a land patent, the original land patent on the land, which is where the campground, cemetery, and church are now located, and it is the first certified site in Illinois. I guess I swell with a little bit of pride. I have no Native American blood that I know of, but when the Cherokees moved into Illinois from Mantle Rock, there are some really horrid stories of the way they were treated on the eastern side of our state. And when they got to the western side of the state, Aaron Marr had told me that they figured probably 6,000 people camped on my ancestors' land as they were backing up due to the ice flows blocking the Mississippi River. And in January, before the removal, my ancestor had lost an 8 and 10-year-old boys. I don't know what from, but he had buried them in the field out from his house. And while the Cherokee were camped on his property, he had them, when they lost someone, he said, bury them out there in the field with my children. And so we have had ground penetrating radar and everything, and we've identified ground anomalies. And so we feel pretty certain where they are buried. And also, Heather's colleague and her husband found receipts where my ancestor was reimbursed for grinding grain. So I come at it from a different perspective, but that's my favorite place.
As Amy said, I'm Alexis Matrone. I'm a graduate research assistant at the Center for Historic Preservation at MTSU. I'm new, so I'm just going to say it's been very nice meeting everybody, and I'm excited to keep learning.
I'm John McClarty from the Arkansas chapter. My favorite place is in Arkansas, Pea Ridge National Military Park, just north of Elkhorn Cavern. There's the Old Wire Road, which is a beautifully preserved remnant of the Trail of Tears. No doubt it was the Trail of Tears, matches the maps, stories, and it's special to me. Just the terrain is special and the feeling of walking it. And it's the first place I was introduced to a large contingent of the Cherokee Nation at a dedication at Pea Ridge. And when the Cherokee Nation came and took charge of the ceremony, they had their honor guard, much like we experienced. The Cherokee Youth Choir was there, and I'm just European, white, but the Cherokee Nation at that moment won my heart and my admiration. And I joined the chapter and have been an active member ever since.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Irby, and I'm fortunate enough to be on the board of the Arkansas chapter as well as the Missouri chapter. My interest, and as I was talking to John a little bit earlier, we were just kind of chatting. If you look at popular media here in the United States, there was never a point where you saw these three races come together. It's like, there's no way that we had the United States, even in the early times, and the white, the black, and the Native Americans did not come together at some point. So, back some years ago, I had began to do some research and found out that there was a point where these three races came together, and the Indian removal is one of those points. In fact, there's a newsletter that was released, I guess about a month ago, and Chief Hopkins of the Cherokee Nation released a newsletter, I think it was last month or so, and he talked about a nation being stronger when it tells the whole story. And he also mentioned about the enslavement of people of African descent, and that also being part of the Native American or the Cherokee story as well. Now, as far as one of my favorite places, I live in the central Arkansas, Little Rock area. And so the Arkansas chapter has been dedicated to telling the story of the Trail of Tears for all 5 tribes. So there's a spot on the river in the downtown area of Little Rock and North Little Rock, whichever side of the river you want to be on. The river trails are on both sides. But on the North Little Rock side, there's a trail, and we have some very nice panels that tell the story there. And you're looking out over the river, and you're actually looking out on to the Little Rock side, which of course Little Rock had the first state house that was west of the Mississippi River, so that's kind of a prominent spot as well. But you're looking across the Arkansas River, and you're looking over at Little Rock, which is a metropolitan area, but you still have, standing there on the Little Rock, on the North Little Rock side, you still have that feeling where you can kind of be isolated. And there are some nice, old, tall cottonwood trees there. And as the wind blows, you can hear, as the lady back there said, you just hear the story. You know, and particularly if you know something of the story, you can hear the story of not only the Indians that passed through, the Native Americans that passed through, the 5 tribes, but the people that all passed through that area. And so you can walk another 100 yards or so and actually walk to the spot where there was a ferry. And at that ferry, it's like a crossroads where some that came solely up the river passed that spot, but then those that crossed the river crossed that spot. So that's my story, and that's my favorite place. Now, as far as Missouri, I like the state park on the, I guess it's the east end where they cross the Mississippi out of Illinois into Missouri. So, thank you.
I'm Lawrence Simmons. I'm a member of all of the chapters. My favorite is New Echota and Red Clay, and I enjoy all of the history.
Well, I really want to thank everybody for sharing all of that because it's very personal, right? And it gets at the heart of what the High Potential Sites and Segments Project is. Everything you guys just mentioned, you're talking about feelings, the experience, what you're hearing, what you're seeing, what you're thinking. That's the thing we want to capture for the trail. And of all the places that were named, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, only 6 are already high potential sites. So there's a lot out there that we have yet to capture. And as Amy said, that's something we can't do without the association. We don't have the personal connection that you all just described with these sites. So the point of this project is to team up with you and get these sites identified so that other people can have that same connection to the land. So you guys all kind of talked about why the Trail of Tears is important. And it's important on many different levels to many different people. And it's important for people to get out there on the ground to make their own connection as to why it would be important to them. And does the trail matter? Does getting out on the trail matter? Can I just sit at my computer and read about it? I mean, every single one of you talked about a place that you had been, boots on the ground, that you had smelled the smell, felt the breeze, heard. So it's important that the people that are familiar with what's out on the ground, we make it accessible for other people to get out on the ground. And so what's the point? The point is, people need that personal connection to the trail. We protect what's important to us. And the way you get that personal connection is getting out there and having the experience. So, high potential sites and segments. We, because we're government, came up with a protocol. And it's a very preliminary way of just capturing on paper everything you all just mentioned, what's important about a site or a route segment. And the point of that is, because we're the government, we like things to be consistently documented, but also people come and people go and people die and people are born, right? And we want some way of being able to convey that information on into the future. And so it's important that we have some way to document it physically. So we came up with 5 categories, right? Like, how confident are we that this location is what we think it is? Because that's kind of important to be accurate. What's the historical significance of that site to the Trail of Tears? There's a lot of important sites out there, but there's also a special category of importance, like what's important to the trail experience. Do we have an opportunity to interpret what happened here? Can we get to it, or is it like a mound site that the bus got stuck in? And then a lot of people, this is my favorite one, the visual similarity to historic landscape. Every single one of us almost talked about the power that the landscape has on your experience. And that's something we really want to seek out. And then also relative lack of intrusions. We all kind of talked about that too, about how that lets you get into the place and get your head in the space. So, does this work for the Trail of Tears, right? We have this beautiful government paper thing, and we need to see, does this really capture what we want it to capture in real life? So we've teamed up with MTSU, and MTSU is going to reach out to Tennessee and Kentucky chapters, and they're going to kind of put it through the paces. And the idea is, are we missing something? Are we asking questions that are irrelevant? Is this just too much bother, right? So it looks like a very formal process right now, but really we're looking for feedback. Does this work for Trail of Tears? Because it needs to work for the trail. It needs to work for the association. We want it to be something people seek out and say, I have a special place, and I want others to know why it's special to me. So MTSU is going to do the field work with Tennessee and Kentucky. And in the meantime, other chapters, other folks, think about these places you just mentioned. Think about the places that move you. They don't have to be a National Register listed site, right? Think about the places that move you when you go to the trail. After they do their field work with the chapters, we're going to revise, because we're the government, we'll revise that protocol again. But I'm going to reach out to each individual chapter, and we're going to go out in the field with each individual chapter so that you all have an opportunity to learn how to document these things and then submit it on so that it's preserved and people can go out and experience it. So that's our presentation. I'm really excited about it. It is a different way of looking at sites. It's a different way of looking at the trail, because it gets back to what the whole Trail System Act is about. It's about the experience. It's about conveying to people what happened on the trail in a very real way. So that's it. Questions? Critique? No. But
Could we email you? And I'm just curious, like, what's on the current list for chapter? Is there any way that we could email you?
Yes. You can also so the way the current list was made was through the Comprehensive Management Plan process 4 billion years ago. And it is available online, but we can just email you the list too. It's
a little hard to find online, like the right document that it's in.
Yeah.
So, and I have it, and I can send it to you. Okay. It's probably easier than you trying to search. And figure it out. Yeah. It's an interesting list.
And it doesn't really say why. So that's kind of the other purpose behind this, is so that when somebody says, why is red clay on your list? We can. You can send that right to just to the chapter. Yeah, I'll send it to chapter presidents. Yeah, we can do that.
The discovery of gold, Copper Creek, definitely relates to the Trail of Tears and Fort Harvesting. the community of Cocoa Creek.
Mm-hmm.
And you can still find gold there, trust me. I am active with the GPAA, the Gold Prospectors Association of America. Now, here is my question. Would it be a probability that there is a gold belt in Tennessee and probably every other state, but the only mention of it is in the 1911 article written about gold in Tennessee, and it's just a description. And somehow or another, I've been looking forever for somebody to take that description and actually map that.
Yeah.
And by the way, Cocoa Creek is the buckle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what was your question? In terms. Oh, I thought you were asking a question.
So would there be a possibility that this would be something that could be done?
You know, here's the nice thing about this process. Whether it ends up meeting criteria or not, you've learned a lot about your site. You've documented a lot about your site, and it ends up being kind of a roadmap. Like, let's say, for instance, you don't have a lot of documentation tying it to the Trail of Tears. You can look at that and go, okay, this is where we're going to put our research effort. Let's go do this. Or let's say you've got a big old ugly fence right in the middle of your site, right? Otherwise, your site's perfect. You can look at this and go, oh, well, we can improve the setting if we can go remove that fence. So it's never going to be a lost effort learning, right? It's always worthy of pursuing. But that's kind of, you have to put it through the process and see if you can make those linkages to the essence of the trail experience, right?
I understand they're going to be testing this process in Tennessee and Kentucky.
Correct.
Those of us that are not in Tennessee and Kentucky, what are some things that we need to do, or are there things that we need to do in preparation for this thing?
Yeah, I can send you a copy of the guide that they'll be testing if you would like, but keep in mind it's probably going to be revised based on feedback from y'all. But, you know, think about sites or route segments in your area that maybe don't meet other criteria, that speak to you. And I know that sounds really tutti frutti and, you know, but we're really looking for those things that provide an amazing trail experience. You can go out there and you can really put yourself in the footsteps and have this vicarious experience. So it's going to take, you know, some work, especially on a chapter level, to figure out where those spaces may be. And Helga?
So I just wanted to add that in preparation for, like, if your chapter has identified some of these sites that you think you're going to want to work with us on this protocol, I think that having kind of tested this internally and then externally with some partners, I think one of the most time-consuming parts is if you don't have historic documentation.
Yep.
And so if you have a site that you know is historically associated with the site, but maybe you don't have that documentation, you can always spend some time ahead of time putting that together. Because sometimes that might be what takes a little bit longer, like when we go through that criteria. It's like we know that you know the historic association. But you gotta do it. We do. We have to have documentation.
Right.
Anyway, that's just like from personal experience.
Yeah, and the other thing I would point out is, you know, a lot of the criteria, like the relative lack of intrusions, that's kind of like, if you're not really familiar with that site, you're not going to really be able to answer that question. So it may be silent today, but for 6 days out of the week, they're drag racing, right? So it really has to be somebody that's familiar with the site. Go there a couple of times, you know, if you have time, different times of the year, different times of the day, so you can really get a good snapshot.
And everything can check every box. If you don't have a willing
Well, actually, I do want to kind of address that. So, recognizing something as a high potential site or segment does not change the land ownership. It does not change management. It doesn't change anything, except we all know that this is an important place on the trail, and land ownership changes. So that's not actually a requirement. It's not even a question we ask. If you have that information, it's great to share it, but it's not even a criteria we use in evaluating these sites.
And I'll add, if you know that, you have plenty of time to develop.
Exactly.
The worst thing to do is knock on the door and say, I need you to sign this piece of paper today.
They don't have to sign anything, but but they will have a lot of information. You know, they'll be a great resource.
I will add, since we're doing a lot of this field work, and these are just select sites in Tennessee and Kentucky to start off with, we will not step foot on private property unless we have permission of the owner. Period. End of story. We will not be able to do this project on a specific site when we don't have owner permission. That's our policy. So just putting that out there.
Yeah. No, we don't go on private land without permission, but we have done a few evaluations.
Yes. Yeah.
That are
privately owned, but
we're not actually on it. Like you're on the fence line or something. Yep. Yep. That was a confusing message, wasn't it?
Yeah, we just contradicted each other.
Don't walk on private land, but if you can do the evaluation from public land, yes, yeah. Anyway, I really appreciate y'all coming. It was really great hearing the diversity of places. There was so few things that were repeated. I think that just goes to show, can you imagine if we had the entire association in here, how many new and different places we would have heard about just sitting at the table. So thank you very much.